Thursday, April 19th, 2018 is MMA Junkie Radio's pre-show, the show that happens before the actual show. I'm
Yeah.
Goes, that's Dan, that's Danny. You're a little early there on your yeah.
I was agreeing with you. The show that happens before the show. I was
This is true.
agreeing.
On today's show, we will have Joe. Here we go. Giannetti. Did I say that right? I think I did. Brittney Palmer.
Giannetti?
Yes, the same Brittney Palmer that thought my name was Gomez years ago.
Goose.
And yeah,
Yeah.
none of the Octagon girls get my name right.
Yeah.
2 minutes.
And Dillon
2
Danis.
minutes.
I was gonna say
2 minutes. 2 minutes. George is waltzing in right now
I was gonna say something that probably wasn't even appropriate for the pre-show.
for the pre-show.
Did it involve Goose?
Yeah, it did.
Oh, okay.
What is that?
What?
Oh,
George has what in grapes? I heard something salad and grapes.
he said pasta salad and grapes.
Is he gonna add the grapes to the pasta salad?
No, Danny, don't be ridiculous.
It's a weird combination of things to bring in together.
Whatever.
So I
What I think he's going to do is he's going to eat the pasta salad and snack on the grapes. If I had to guess.
Coming up in a minute.
1 minute. 1 minute. Yes.
I'm the opposite of he's the opposite of me today in a good way. I can't hate. He's prepared. I missed most of my morning food routines and prep.
Oh, man. Don't want to
Coming up at 30.
Do it.
30 seconds. Before Cindy left, she made me her emergency contact.
Uh-oh.
And because she's going to such a nasty place of the world, now I have to answer every phone call. And it sucks.
Yeah, the pre-show goes. I know I'm on.
Alright, guys. Coming up at 10. Stand by.
It's like Willie. I know the mic's on. My first lot of man.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMA Junkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is gonna be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yeah!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space,
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
we've solidified our combat communication stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology, MMA Junkie Radio, commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes. Ari's co-host, to my left, the fight analyst, Dan Tom, and of course, back east, producing the show, as always, it's Danny Otto. What's up, guys?
What's up? Good
Not
morning.
much.
It's a nice-looking cabin, Goes.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
Is that code for something?
It's kind of a upgrade a little bit. I
it
think,
is.
right?
Remember Steve from the other day? The
Yeah,
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt?
Yeah.
He has a cabin in Big Bear. We went to it in 2013. I actually encountered some bears. And he was just telling us he's got a new one, and we were taking a look, and it's pretty cool. And you said John Rico's been to it? By accident, or was it our recommendation?
a little bit of everything. So he went to Big Bear for the first time, I think, last year, maybe the year before.
Yeah.
And he goes, "This is awesome. I don't know why we haven't done this before." And I go, "Hey, I have a buddy who has a cabin. Next time you go up, let me know." And he's like, "Well, my dad kind of already likes to pick the cabin or whatever." He ended up staying at Steve's cabin.
So the whole time he was there.
Well, the next time he went and didn't take my recommendation, he actually ended up staying in the cabin that I would have recommended anyway.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, he stayed in Steve's cabin before.
Yeah, it's cool. If anybody in SoCal or, you know, the immediate states ever want to get away, Big Bear is where you hear a lot of athletes go to, like Triple G, Tito Ortiz back in the day. Ronda Rousey's done it. They'll go up there and isolate themselves a little bit. It's 7,000 feet altitude, and so you'll get out there and you'll get some great workouts. But there's some fighters that have already established some gyms, and or they've owned cabins where they've set up gyms, and it's really, really cool. You know, crisp, clean air, and in the summer you can go boating and jet skiing and all that good stuff. And in the winter you can go skiing, snowboarding, hiking, all of it. It's really, really cool, and it's not far away. That's the thing. So SoCalers living in the Inland Empire, Orange County, LA, even with traffic, you're probably at the top of the mountain in 2 hours. Maybe San Diego, 3 hours. But you'll often hear people that you're used to hearing, you know, talk about the beach and surfing and things like that, also talk about snowboarding, and that's because Big Bears is just, it's part of the Sierra Nevadas, and it's close. So if you ever want to head up that way and you're looking for a cabin, we know a guy, and it's really, really nice. He's got 2 right now, but one of them's going to be sold, and the new one's probably even nicer than the other one. Hey, we got to talk Tough because we're going to take an early commercial today. Tough 27 started yesterday, and I caught it. I caught the episode this morning. When I went last night to the queue, it wasn't there. I had recorded Tough Talk, but not The Ultimate Fighter. I noticed there was one at 1:30, and I thought, well, maybe I'll wait, maybe I won't. Sure enough, I fell asleep like an old man. But I woke up and I saw it. Did you see it?
I did.
Did you catch it, Dan?
No.
No? Okay. So it's Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier, and that, you know, those are the teams. And I mean, everything you've ever seen, you know, where except now they're all undefeated. They came out, they did their warm-ups, the teams evaluated them, they had the clipboards and ran them through a series of drills. I saw a heavy emphasis of wrestling from Daniel Cormier.
He had a good explanation for that, though.
He did, yeah, he did. He says he's seen wrestlers do well because it's only 2 rounds, and he feels like if you have the ability to control the fight, at least for the 2 rounds, you can get out of there and continue advancing. He thinks it's well built for the tournament. Yeah, yeah. So he was looking for that, and Stipe Miocic, I don't think really clarified what he was looking for, but they flip a coin, and Daniel Cormier gets first pick. And it was explained later on in Tough Talk that he felt like he had an advantage because he got the first pick. Miocic gets the first matchup. Now, usually, from what we've seen, the matchup is very important. But what happened with Cormier, he said because there was 2 different weight classes, 45 and 55, he was able to get himself a 45er first, and then Miocic matched him. And then he was able to go to 55 first, and Miocic matched him. And so he felt like he got the 2 first-round picks that he really wanted. You ask any coach, and they'll always tell you, I got the guys that I wanted. Regardless, they had themselves a fight, and the winner was Joe Giannetti. He will be a guest of ours on today's show. In fact, going forward, every single week we will have the winner from the previous night's episode on MMA Junkie Radio, and we'll always do it at the beginning. At least that's the plan of every Thursday. So if you don't want to hear spoiler talk, which maybe I should have told you 2 minutes ago, you just probably want to start catching 90 minutes of Thursday show every week, because we will talk tough to open things up and then move on to the winner.
You don't like it? Tough.
Exactly. I took down a couple little notes, though, and then goes, maybe you can tell me your reaction. When Dana White introduced Stipe Miocic, he said, you know, he was talking to all 16 competitors, and he said, over here we got the greatest heavyweight of all time. No pause, no hesitation. It just flowed.
Mm-hmm.
And Cormier's assistant coach is Kane. But Kane wasn't there.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
He wasn't there?
He wasn't there. But I'm sure Kane's watching.
Are you sure he wasn't in the background or something? I didn't think about that. What I was thinking
now I have
about,
to go back and look, but I think it was just both head coaches.
what I was thinking about more was when he introduced Daniel. He said,
Right.
"Who I believe is," but he kind of like, almost like he just caught himself like, "Oh man, now I gotta say her." So I don't know.
When Kane, when Kane ever returns, watch how that little sound clip will be part of his motivation.
Mhm.
You know, if it's Miocic that's waiting for him, because as we all know, DC's headlining UFC 226 versus Miocic for the heavyweight title. But anyway, then like Go said, he moves on to Daniel Cormier, and he says, and introducing one of the greatest, and then he pauses and says, in my opinion, the greatest light heavyweight of all time, Daniel Cormier. And I know everyone that's hanging from Jones's nuts had to have been pissed, you know, because he's clearly won 2 fights. Cormier has said so as well over Daniel Cormier. And even though one of the results is X'd out as a no contest, the other one stands. So I just thought, ooh, I wonder what that ripple effect was. I wish I would have seen it live and then gone to Twitter and just seen whose tampons fell out. He continues. Or they flipped the coin, and DC picked first. Stipe's first pick was a teammate of his. I noted that. And also, Stipe got the first matchup. He created the first matchup, which was John Gunther versus Joe Giannetti. All right, now I noted that DC had a strong focus on wrestling during the workouts, and when they were going at it, you saw how he even told them, "I want you guys to wrench that neck and grind." And I'm thinking, I get the toughness part and the grind part, but what if you just happen to tweak somebody? Because that's a major injury when people are grappling. You'll hear a lot of people go, "Hey, I haven't seen you in jiu-jitsu for the last 2 weeks." Yeah, I tweaked my neck. You know, I'm letting it rest or recover. And that's just the minor variety. But, you know, he said it, and it could just be TV. I don't know. But I thought, wow, like, he's really having these guys push themselves hard, even though they're only committed to him for 6 weeks, and they want to get out of there healthy and move on. I'd hate to see someone just get, have something silly. But regardless, he said that. Also, when they talked about each guy and showed each guy and where they came from, because each guy gets a camera sent to him, and they tell him, film yourself. John Gunther lived in his van.
Well, both of them were homeless.
Right. And Gunther's currently living in his van, though.
But Gunther makes it sound like he may be able to, say, afford an apartment or a home. It seems like more he chooses to be in that van. He was saying it's not that bad. It's actually convenient. He does this. He does that.
Well, but
so
then he went to a home where they raised 12 kids, and it looked pretty damn big. And a roof's a roof. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just thought, how is he in that position? He's an undefeated fighter. Like you would think someone believes in him by now.
Well, he travels a lot, right?
Yeah.
Dan, you're gonna think this is really weird, but to shave llamas.
And
across the country, so maybe that's part of the reason why he does that.
He needs to negotiate with these companies he's working with and saying, you need to put me up in a Motel 6. They'll leave the light on, and they've kind of refurbished things. So
what I don't understand is, all right, you shave llamas. I don't understand why you got to put them in a triangle to do it. But didn't it look like he was shaving his mouth? Like he was sticking the thing in his mouth.
Yeah,
what is that?
I don't know, man. A lot of people were tripping and saying, I wonder what PETA thinks, but they...
Oh, that PETA?
In fact, I can't get into it now, but... I don't believe it's of that variety. We're very familiar with alpacas. You see them a lot in Peru. They're prevalent in Peru. So, moving on, he lives in his van. He's 32 years old. Kylie Phillips and Brad Katona will be fighting next week. Now, Giannetti will be a guest of ours here in a few minutes. So we are going to take an early break. He's 22 years of age, and the reason I noted Gunther's age of 32 is I really believe that the UFC, which now we're hearing they may not continue with tough, but one thing I think they're going to have to really focus on is, hey, you may be 6-0, but you're 32. Is it going to be like other sports? Like, what if you were an All-American quarterback out of Navy or Brigham Young, where you either had a mission or you had commitments to the military, where maybe 32 is a bit much, but you're 28 years old, an All-American, incredible arm, but Dan's 20. I can work with him for the next 8 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if
like Chris Winky.
I know that. Yeah, exactly. I know that. I know part of it was just like, hey, they're undefeated. Let's get these guys in there. But at some point, if UFC I wonder if they should think about this and say, we could benefit a lot more from a younger guy who's 6-0. He didn't seem that special enough to me that we just needed to roll the dice.
I think they just wanted undefeated guys, and I think they looked
They
at
were
this
that hard
tough.
to find.
I think they looked at this tough as let's just build the whole Cormier Stipe.
It could be, man. And the other thing is just like he's got a mustache. He's crazy. Who knows? You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back with last night's tough winner from episode 1, Joe Giannetti.
Hey, idiot! Yeah, you. Can you please tap that rather large fellow on the shoulder and tell him it's time for more MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes? Thank you.
The SEC now has a 24/7 home on SiriusXM. Hear from the hosts like Peter Burns, Chris Childers, and more on SiriusXM SEC Radio, channel 374, and on the SiriusXM app. All right, so last night began a run of what'll be about 2.5 months of The Ultimate Fighter. It's called The Ultimate Fighter Undefeated. It's season 27, and the coaches are UFC heavyweight champion Stipe Miocic and UFC light heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier. And as you all know, at UFC 226, they will meet up, and it'll be champion versus champion. They'll be competing for Stipe Miocic's belt. Now, you can catch this show every Wednesday, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, and it's followed by Tough Talk, hosted by Karen Bryant. This past week had Joe Giannetti from Team Cormier battling John Gunther from Stipe Miocic's team. The winner was Joe Giannetti. He joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. What's up, Joe? How you doing?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good. Congratulations on your win last night, which was really like 3 months ago, but you know what I mean.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Did it feel good to kind of, I know you can let the cat out of the bag little by little. So let's pretend that you have maybe like 10 bags or 10 cats in a bag. At least you got to say, hey, everyone, I moved on. You know what I mean? What's that pressure like to just bottle it all up and not be able to share with people at least some measure of success?
It was a huge bummer. I mean, it was the biggest fight of my life at the time, and not being able to tell anybody was kind of sucky. So it was cool that everybody gets to know now that I made it through round one, and everything that I worked for was worth it.
You couldn't have written a better script. It all happened so quick. You didn't take any damage. I mean, talk about that. Did you even feel satisfied with the quick win?
That was actually the happiest moment I've been as far as each win I've ever gotten. I always have a game plan, and I try to follow it to a T.
Right.
And I think that that's probably my only fight that perfectly played out to the game plan. The game plan was go out there and touch him, hurt him with some strikes, make him shoot, and get his neck. And as you saw, it's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, you did put one on him, and then the choke sank in, and next thing you know, he was just completely out. He was out even before he hit the floor, right?
Oh, yeah, he was out. The second I locked it up, I knew it was over, and he was out before he hit the floor. I didn't know he was out. I thought he was trying to roll out of the guillotine.
Right.
So I just kept squeezing.
Yeah, no, that was good work. Joe Giannetti joining us here on MMA Junkie Radio. He won last night over John Gunther in episode 1 of The Ultimate Fighter Undefeated. Goes, what do you have for Joe Giannetti?
Joe, you were in a really unique situation because you were the first fight, and normally when we watch these seasons, as the season progresses a little bit, the teams talk a little bit. Some information does pass through. This is what this guy does. You said going in, you really didn't know very many of these guys or what they do. Did you have any type of scouting report on him? Anything to go off of at all?
I know from what everybody had said that he is one of the toughest guys on the show and that he's fought nothing but killers. They also said that he really can't be finished with strikes and that my best chance would be on the ground. So, I mean, I just knew that I could do what DC said, just hurt him and go for my choke. I mean, that choke has worked for me every time I've done it, so I just kept doing what I do.
Up until that moment, I know you have your coaches back home, people that you rely on, training partners, but all that gets switched around so quickly where now you have these new coaches that you have to rely on. They have new strategies, new techniques. Do you even feel like you were really able to implement any of that new stuff for this fight, or was it a little bit more of the Joe from before carrying over into this fight?
I think that there was a lot of Joe from before that carried over to this fight, but there definitely was some new stuff in there. Even something as simple as throwing a left hand and a right uppercut afterwards. I threw it in that fight, and I never thought of doing it before. And then the cardio and the mental toughness. I mean, as you guys saw, Kane and DC beat me up for rounds on rounds, and mentally that helped me going into the fight.
There's a lot of money on the line in a contest like this, in a tournament, and I know you mentioned to Dana during or right after the fight, how about that bonus? And that kind of money for something like that can be changing for a guy in your situation. Like, you know, it can change your career a lot and probably put you in a better mood while you're in the house, knowing that that's already been racked up. Can you talk about that moment? He let you know a little bit later that you were going to get that bonus. Can you talk a little bit about that?
It was a huge relief that Dana said that I was going to get that bonus. I know that I'm there to win the whole tournament, but I mean, when I walked into that fight, the goal was to get the finish. Whenever I fight, the goal is to get the finish. But knowing that there's a cash prize on the other end of a finish, it motivates me even more. So I just went out and did what I did, and that money helps me greatly.
And I know it's only been a few days from the time that you guys entered the house to when you fought, but can you talk about up until that point, were you satisfied with your teammates and how everybody was, I guess, hoping to gel early on before eventually you get to the point where you have to, you know, stand opposite of each other in that cage?
Yeah, I think that our team meshed together really well. I mean, I felt great leading up to that fight with Gunther. And everybody, as much as the egos were there because we're all undefeated, I think everybody understood for right now that we need to help each other. Because going into that fight, everybody on Team DC just did whatever I needed to help me get ready for it, and it was a really good feeling.
What's DC like? Can you sum it up in a sentence or two? Just, you've had some time with him now through the show. Now, I don't want you to talk about the whole experience, just to up until this point. You know, early on, man, he was grinding. These guys were coming after you. So I don't know if you had any questions as far as like, whoa, wait a minute, you know, I'm fighting here, and is this the best preparation possible? But in the end, I know you were very thankful. But up until that point, what did you think overall of DC and his staff?
I mean, every time you mention DC, I just think grind and determination. I think DC was more nervous in the back room than I was leading up to the fight. But, I mean, he cares. He cares about his fighters, and he really cared going into that fight. So, also, he's the champ of the world. So, knowing that I have them in my corner, I didn't really care what he said. Whatever he said to do to prep for that fight is what I did. Even if I felt like it was different than how I normally train, he's my coach, and I just do what my coach says.
What about the fact that he also had Cain Velasquez with him? You know, you guys are all badasses. You're all undefeated. You're all there for a reason. But at the same time, I mean, you could tell you guys were – you tell me personally, it seemed like as a group you were starstruck. But how impressed were you just being around those guys, and how did their greatness, I guess, rub off on you guys? Do you feel like it took your professionalism to a new level?
I definitely think that it changed the game being around them for so long. DC and Cain are the best in the business. And after getting beat up by them for 3 rounds of shark bait on the first day of practice, I definitely have a new respect for where I need to take my career and how much better I need to get, because those two are just on such a different level. I can see that I still have so much room for improvement.
Mm-hmm. As far as the draft, I can anticipate your answer already, but is that what you were hoping for? Was Team DC, or did it not matter who you wound up with in the end?
At first, I really didn't care. I mean, it doesn't matter to me who my coach is. I mean, there's no losing in that situation. DC
right.
and Stipe are both amazing. After I saw the coaching staff, I did kind of want to be on DC a little bit more, just because it seemed more like a team. Like, it seemed that's DC's team. Those are his guys, so they mesh perfectly. They're like gears. They just push each other perfect. They know how to work together, how to not step on each other's toes. They just seem more connected. So I was really hoping to get on Team DC after I saw the coaches.
Last question. We're talking to Joe Giannetti here from The Ultimate Fighter Undefeated season, which debuted last night, and you can catch it every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. Joe got the win over John Gunther. Joe, at this point, so, you know, like I said, a cat is out of the bag. We don't know how the rest of the season plays out, but did you get a lot of texts, calls, emails from people that caught you, whether they anticipated that you were in there or not, or didn't know, and what was that reaction like?
Oh, my phone's still blowing up right now, but last night it was crazy. I think everybody that I've ever come into contact with hit me up. I actually had somebody that I played Xbox with in Call of Duty like 3 years ago hit me up and was like, "Remember we played online together?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Well, now we got to play Fortnite. I just watched the show." I was like, "All right." But it was really cool. I know that a bunch of people have always supported me in my career, but now that everybody got to see me, it was really cool.
All right, Skeletor. By the way, I like that nickname. Thanks for the time, man. Great catching up with you. I hope to talk to you again at some point during the season. Like I said, we'll be catching up with the different fighters that win the previous night's episodes. Hopefully you're one of those, and if not, at the same time, I think you have a lot of potential, man, and I really love your approach to the game. I love the way you listen to your coaches, gelled with them, and everything. So thanks for doing the show. We really appreciate it, and good luck in the future.
Hey, thank you for everything. Glad to be here.
All right, take care. All right, folks, that's Joe Giannetti. Follow him on Twitter at Giannetti MMA. Let me spell that out for you, Giannetti. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM Rush 93. When we come back, we'll have UFC Octagon girl Brittney Palmer on the show.
They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Start your day with SiriusXM. Enable the SiriusXM skill on your Amazon device. Then tell Alexa to set an alarm for your favorite channel. And you'll wake up to the sounds of SiriusXM. With SiriusXM and Alexa, you can get the latest sports news each morning without picking up your phone or turning on the TV. Alexa!
Yes.
I'm just wondering if anyone that's listening to us with an Alexa in the background, it makes that noise. Because it happens to us.
The commercials.
Every time I watch Manchester United, if Alexa Sanchez is playing, and they go, Alexa Sanchez, our thing on the back makes that noise. So that was just me being silly. Not even silly, Philly. Like with a lisp. Thilly.
What you should have done.
I was being silly right now.
What you should have done was asked Alexa for something embarrassing. Then hopefully somebody walks in, doesn't hear your part, but hears the thing. So it sounds like
that'd be incredible timing.
Yeah. But it's going to happen. There's a lot of people.
I think the better angle is if I say something embarrassing and that parent is feeding breakfast to their kids and now their kids have to hear it because of what I said. Because the other timing would be like.
Can you interrupt and just go, Alexa, shut up? Will she stop?
I don't know.
Because he could have said, like, Alexa, where can I buy Viagra? And then by then, somebody's walked into the room and said, you can buy Viagra. And then that guy's got to go like, oh, fuck.
Speaking of technology pranks, have you ever just tried to turn on your AirDrop and do your Starbucks prank to randoms instead of friends you know?
My airdrop?
You
Oh,
usually, but do it through airdrop
eBay?
because you usually you use it through text and
I
you're
haven't,
texting
no.
embarrassing. You know what I'm
That
saying?
would be
I need to
funny.
get better at airdrop. Airdrop is a real lifesaver, especially when we're on those trips to visit the military. But yeah. Anyway, all right, we're ready for our next guest, and her name is Brittney Palmer. She is the UFC's Octagon girl. You see her for all the big shows, like the pay-per-views mostly, and the big Fox shows. She's been doing this for quite a long time. Started off in the WEC, now in the UFC. She's also a host, model, and artist. So give her a follow on Twitter at Brittney Palmer, BrittneyPalmer. She joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. Hey, Brittney, how you doing?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Good, good. Welcome back to MMA Junkie Radio. You're on with George and Goes. We also have the fight analyst, Dan Tom, here with us. It's been a minute since we had you on, and the whole reason I wanted to have you on is because we recently celebrated our 11th year anniversary of being in the sport, and I was thinking back of how many people have sustained their careers, and I know following you through WEC and the UFC, you must be about, 12 or 13 years in now?
Oh, man. Is it that long? I've been sticking with 10 years, but it's probably somewhere. I think it's about 11 to 12 years, probably.
Man, it's so cool that you and Ariane, good friend of yours, you guys have been able to make this a career. When we first started following the sport, and even before then we were fans, a lot of the previous Octagon girls almost made it seem like a stepping stone and then to get out and move on to something else. And I'm really proud of you guys to hang in there with it, make it a career, and then have all these different opportunities from this and still be with the company. That's very commendable.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing about it. Ariane and I, we didn't plan on making this a career, but, we're both really big fans of UFC. So it's like, and really just to be a fan and support the company and to be a part of such a great company, because it is like a family. When you're in the UFC, they take care of you as one of their own, and her and I have just kind of paved this way, and we both do other things on the side. So when we do the UFCs, where it's just like two best friends getting together, doing something that we love, and then we leave and we go back about, what else we chose to do. I'm an artist besides the Octagon girl, so that's what I do. And, working with UFC and having the audience, the UFC's audience, it helps me in my art career, and it helps me create a name for myself in the art world, which is kind of what I wanted to do in the first place.
And basically, do I have it right? You guys are basically tied down mostly to pay-per-views, right? You guys work the pay-per-views and maybe the ones on Big Fox. Like, is there an actual set schedule for you, or do you have the flexibility to kind of move in and out of different shows, or are there some parts of the world that request Brittney and Ariane?
Well, I know Mexico usually requests Ariane, which is fine, but we get to choose. We really do. If we just, if we really wanted to go to Australia and work that card, Ariane and I would just ask if we could. But we do the big pay-per-view events, and like I said, we can choose any of them. Like there was just a fight in Austin, and my best friend lives in Austin, and it wasn't a big card, but I wanted to go to, to Austin because it's awesome. So I asked them if I could work. So working with a company that long and having, this stance that we have with the company, we could really pick and choose what we want. But usually we stick with the big pay-per-view fights or the big Fox cards.
I know people probably ask you questions that are probably impossible to pin down, like the greatest fight ever, greatest event ever. So without going down that road, just tell me about something that's happened in your career that has stood out that would have never happened unless you were an Octagon girl for the premier organization in mixed martial arts.
I mean, I think years ago when I was gracing covers of Playboy and Maxim and FHM, I feel, I know that I wouldn't have been able to have that opportunity to model and to, travel in that modeling world without the UFC's help and to, without having that brand attached to my name. So I think that was definitely a pinnacle moment in my career as a model. And that was, in my early 20s. And I think it's just I sell a lot of paintings to a lot of UFC fans, and they commission me to do, a lot of work for them. So, that as well, I wouldn't be a working artist and be as successful as I am, I think, without the help of the UFC and, the audience that watch us and support us all.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't your work also grace UFC 2013? I think it was T-shirts or something like that, or part of the post.
Yeah, it's another thing with the art. So I was, For the Fan Expo last year for the UFC International Fight Week in July, I designed the shirts for Reebok. So all the fans wore it at weigh-ins, which was epic. I had shirts and hats. And, that was a very, a pinnacle moment in my art career. And especially to be there on stage with the fighters that are walking out wearing my shirts and wearing the hats. And, knowing that it was Brittney X, Reebok was incredible. And it's helping, in other endeavors that I'm, pursuing right now, just to have Reebok and UFC, just that I've been working with them. They believed in me enough to, commission me to do something like that.
Yeah, she's everywhere, man. She's doing modeling, hosting, lots of traveling, and then of course I noticed that you took a trip up north to do your calendar. And a lot of people always talk about cruises, and a lot of our listeners, and a lot of people have been talking about Alaska. You went up to Alaska. What was that experience like?
It was so good. Actually, I went up to Alaska right after the July, after the International Fight Week. We flew from Vegas to Alaska, and this was the time, in the summer, so it doesn't get dark till 11:30, and it doesn't really ever even get that dark. It's kind of gets dusk, and then it gets dark, and then it's bright again. So it's kind of cool to be outside at 9 p.m. and it's broad daylight. That was cool. But Alaska was beautiful. It really is such a beautiful part of the world, and I had never seen anything and my girlfriend, her parents were there, so we had the whole local experience, and it was beautiful. It was truly one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen.
Brittney Palmer, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. All right, Goes, what do you have for Brittney?
Brittney, I'm not sure if you've already done this, but I'm going to ask anyway. When I go to the Performance Institute, there's a lot of open space on those walls. If they were to tell you, Brittney, paint something for one of these big old walls, what would you pick to paint?
Well, if it's a Performance Institute, so I would probably I could do, abstract is really what I've been getting into right now. I'm known for portrait art, which I love and I'll always stick with, and, that's what I studied in school. So I have a passion for that. But, maybe just something beautiful and, visually stimulating to look at, abstract with, beautiful colors, maybe integrate a portrait somewhere in there hidden or lost or something that people would want to create their own. If it's a performing art, you just kind of want people to make their own, make up their own mind about it. What do they interpret by it? Something like that, probably.
Back in the day, like George mentioned, you guys used to do every show. And I remember people thinking this must be awesome. They get to travel the world. But really, if you kept track of where you guys would go, you would go someplace really far, come back for a day, and then go to the next destination. Those days where you guys were doing all that traveling, how taxing was that on you guys?
It was, and that's a great observation. And people, they're, oh, it's so great, so great. And Ariane and I would look at each other and we just almost fit, melt. It's exhausting. It really is. It's hard on your body. And, we're not just going and being able to wear jeans and a t-shirt and just hustle around. And, we're models. So we have to be in shape. We have to eat right. And we have to, we have to represent the company. We can't slack off and just eat airport food. So, it was taxing. It was very, very taxing. And now, now we have the luxury of taking a lot more time off, which is nice. And UFC understands that as well. And especially because there's more fights. But yeah, a lot of that travel, there was a lot of exhausting moments. And like I said before, Ariane and I, we both do other things other than being the UFC Octagon girls. Even back then, I was still in art school, and I was still, working other jobs, and she was doing the same. So it was taxing, but we're young, we're healthy, and we're so lucky to be able to do what we do that we didn't complain too much. We just, accepted that this was our fate.
And throughout the years, I know a lot of employees are gone now. A lot of fighters have gone through their cycle of fighting and now retiring. Is there a particular face, because, you guys are basically family over there. You've been there for so long. Is there a particular face that you kind of just miss seeing around?
The thing is, do they ever really retire? Anderson Silva retired, and he was one of my favorite fighters, and he's, he comes back. But, I miss seeing, Uriah Faber is from the WEC days, and he's my bud. But he's always around. But like, I would love to see him back in the cage. But I mean, I know he's retired now. So, I mean, it depends. But at the same time, you know, we watch these guys come in and they, you know, have a great career, and then, you know, we see when it's time for them to retire. So we know that it's not like of course we want to see these fights again and see these, you know, the explosiveness of it, but we also understand that the longevity of, you know, of the UFC fighter career. So we're very mature. We're very mature when it comes to like, oh, okay, well that makes sense. You know, oh, you know, they should retire. They're getting to this whatever, you know, place in their career. So it's never too sad. But yeah, I mean, we always want to see everyone, you know, like it used to be. I mean, and like it is now is great. But you know, you have those great like Chuck Liddells and Anderson Silva and just those really great cards that I've been lucky to sit front row over the years.
Yeah, I was thinking about it as Goes was asking you that question. I wonder how many WEC fighters are left. Like, I know there's Cerrone, I know there's Lamas, I know there's Aldo, I know there's Swanson, and Faber recently retired, but Cruz, Mendes is going to come back soon. Mendes did fight for WEC, right?
Cruz retired, right? Cruz retired, didn't he, or no?
No, not yet. He's coming back from an injury, so he hasn't officially retired. But I got to believe he doesn't have many fights left in him because he's had a lot of injuries, but he's technically not retired. But you know, you came through that organization. I'm sure you have a soft spot for all those guys, and I know you guys aren't supposed to openly cheer, but I'm sure you're WEC till I die, right?
Yeah, and if you just look, I'm WEC all the way, and some of the greatest fighters are, you know, the WEC fighters. So it's cool. It's cool because, you know, it's not. I was brought in by, you know, WEC, and even though it was like a sister organization, but it's kind of cool that like I've always really been a part of the family. So even, you know, as long as I've been in UFC, hasn't been 11 years. It was WEC prior to, but you just kind of incorporate all of it into each other. And, you know, I'm a huge love and supporter of the UFC, and I genuinely love MMA. So it's cool. I feel very lucky and honored and blessed to be here.
You know, when I go to your website, BrittneyPalmer.com, and I was looking it over, you obviously have really, like I said, made a career for yourself with art. You know, a lot of it comes from, you know, your time in the WC and now the UFC. But wow, like it's pretty cool how you've been able to get into what I'm reading here. Maybe you can explain and expand on it a little bit. Brittney Palmer original limited edition reversible art bombers. So like they're taking your art and putting it on jackets, but like are you also maybe looking to
even
get
better?
Design,
I'm taking my art and I'm putting it on jackets. I did that whole thing. I did the designs. My team, they went overseas and they went and picked out some bombers. They brought them back to me. We had them made and, you know, made out there and brought them over here. Like it was a whole, there's no commissions I'm giving to another company. This is all my design, my brand, my clothing. And, it's great. And also, if you kind of keep scrolling, there's more apparel. So I did this line for Art Basel last year in December. I created a show titled No Agency, which was this pop-up show and store in Wynwood Arts District during Art Basel. And I created a show, and I created a group show. I got some of my friends, some up-and-coming great artists, and some well-known artists, just a couple of us. And I curated a show with us, and I also designed a clothing line incorporating some of their art and some of my art, including the art bombers, just to kind of give a new spin on, you know, apparel. And it's unisex, so, you know, I understand my audience is, you know, mainly men, which is fine, but also women, because I wear guys' shirts all the time. I just wear them small, tuck it in the front, and I like to dress comfortable. So, all of those designs on those T-shirts are from either, you know, my art, my paintings that I put on, or other artists. So it's all individual, limited design shirts, and the bombers are all limited and numbered. And we made kids ones, which are adorable. And you know, when they're done, they're going to be done forever, and we'll just create a whole new line. But it's exciting. It's exciting to get into this realm. And you know, with Reebok, it kind of gave me this passion to get into this fashion and to incorporate art and style, and it's what I wear. So I'm creating something. It's kicking. It's moving.
It's really cool. I'm staring at the Bruce Lee one I really dig it. Yeah, you did a great job with that.
You got to get one.
So let me tell you something real fast. Again, just the fact that you've been in the industry for so long, you guys are kicking ass. Congratulations. One of our writers had asked, I don't know if you knew this, but Invicta had a show, and Elias Theodoru, one of the fighters, elected to be, I guess, a ring boy, or I don't know how you would call it. And one of the writers was saying, hey, I wonder how the females reacted to it. Because you know how social media can be. There can be so much love towards something, and then sometimes there can be hate. We talked to the Invicta president, Shannon Knapp, and she said Elias took it serious. He really wanted to do it. That's why she commissioned it and allowed it. And I said, well, I remember a few of I haven't talked to the ring card girls in a while, but let me reach out to one of them. Next thing you know, I'm in your site. I'm like, holy cow, she's doing a lot. It's time to do a catch-up. But I did want to get your reaction. What do you think of a ring boy at an all-female event?
I mean, sure, why not? I don't see that. I mean, but that's up to him. If he wants to do it, hey, more power to him. I mean, there's no sexism on our part. We just go in, do our job with a smile on our face, and rep the company. And if somebody wants to do that, you could have a ring child. I mean, we don't care. So, I mean, to each their own. I mean, for me to say that it's not fair for a ring boy would be for me to say that it's not fair for a female fighter, and I think that that's wrong. So, whatever he wants to do, that is his prerogative. Now, will he be sitting next to us at UFC? I don't know. That would be something you have to ask Dana. But yeah, no, that's up to him. I don't. For me, those little gimmicks and those fun things are just fun and exciting, and it's not anything that I don't like to take this too seriously. It's supposed to be fun.
Have you liked when they've brought in like a celebrity to do it, like Holly Madison? And do you think they should do that more often?
Why would they have to bring in Holly Madison? They have us.
Well, no, I get that, but like maybe for a special event, she seemed to embrace it, and it seemed to be just different, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, sure. I mean, they haven't done that for a long time, but Holly was super sweet when she was there, and everyone loved her. And I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't oppose to bringing him in. But yes, I mean, we like I said, we're just here to have fun. There's like no like competition. Like we're really, really chill about it. It might seem because we've been there so long that we're like all like, this is our, these are our chairs. Like,
right.
But we're really super cash. Like the new girls that come in, because we get girls all the time that are, just guests. I mean, Brooklyn, she shows up every once and again, and Ashley, and we're always very extremely nice and welcoming and warm, and we actually like new faces. Like we don't mind it, and I'm pretty sociable, so I just like to ask a million questions and get to know people. So it doesn't affect us at all.
I liked it because I felt like it brought like a pretty cool status, like kind of like how a lot of females say, hey, I'd like to be Wonder Woman in a movie, or I'd like to be, whatever. There's some iconic roles that women would love to do that. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool that somebody wanted to do that. You know what I mean? Because I think, like I said, you guys have made it into such a huge part of the show. I think Buffer's done the same thing with him as the announcer, and everybody else that's contributed along the way. And I thought that was pretty cool that she wanted to enter your guys' world. And I thought maybe others might do it, but I wasn't sure if it was because it was a special show or why that happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just back then, UFC was just so, it was like it was so new and exciting, and I think that they just had different ideas, and maybe they'll bring it back. We don't know. That's above my pay grade.
Why do you think you and Ariane have reached this level of superstardom when it comes to this? And by that I mean, if you look at, like, you guys have millions of followers across all social media platforms, and then the other ones, granted, they haven't been there as long as you guys have, but they just kind of trail behind a little bit. Why is that? Did you think you guys just came in at the right moment, or?
I think there's several reasons, I think, why. I think we've been there the longest, and we came in at the right moment. We've kind of put a staple in with the UFC. But it's also, kind of how, I mean, and this is nothing against any of the other girls. I mean, this is just strictly on why her and I feel, and not comparing. I don't like to compare, because I don't ever think that's fair, because there's always different situations. But I think that the reason Ariane and I have been able to create such a staple in the UFC is, we really take it seriously. I mean, even though it's an octagon girl, and people might say or think whatever, but it's really not as easy as it looks. I mean, it's not just holding the card up. I mean, it's really repping the sport. It's training every single day and doing, what else we need to do in our lives. So, I mean, Ariane and I work out extremely hard, 2 times a day sometimes. Our diets are, like, completely clean. I mean, I'm a vegetarian, so it's, it is we've taken care of ourselves so well in the company that like there hasn't been a reason, I mean, hopefully, that we would have to go. And I think that that's important, you know, and we really truly love the sport, and I think people know that and they can see that, and we don't, you know, I don't know, we take it pretty serious, and I think it shows. So I think that's why we've been there so long.
You guys have done a great job. You deserve it. Folks, if you want to learn more about Brittney Palmer, go to BrittneyPalmer.com, and then she'll have links there for how you can follow her on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And according to a tweet I saw recently, I think today may be the last day where people can scoop up your calendar. Folks, you'll dig it.
For $10.
Yeah, for $10. You'll dig it. And Brittney, thanks a lot for the time. We really appreciate it. We're still in Vegas at the Mandalay Bay. Next time you find yourself in Vegas, we'd love to have you in studio. But congrats on everything, all the success you've had.
Do it. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on.
All right, take care. We'll see you.
Bye.
Bye. All right, folks, that's Brittney Palmer. At least, let me see, at least 10 years with the UFC probably, and like maybe closer to 12 overall. And she was with WEC when they were Zuffa. So, like, you're talking about a third of her life, you know, has been with Zuffa. Or now it's WME IMG, but it's a pretty close-knit group. You're right, Ghost. A lot of people aren't here, but Mark Ratner, Bruce Buffer, Dana White, obviously, Sean Shelby. Like, there are some names that have stood the test of time. How long do you think Vanessa and the blonde have been there? Chrissy, yeah. Like on 4 or 5 years now?
I would say
like
maybe
they're beautiful young
6.
ladies, but for some reason they haven't taken off like the other two.
Well, Vanessa was still around for Strikeforce, right?
I don't think so. I don't think she was Strikeforce.
You sure?
Jenny's kind of like taken off, but she's got like the Brazil push. But I felt like everyone else was maybe because we just don't see them as often. It could just be more work, more exposure. I don't know. All right.
I'm curious about your question though. Who will be the last man standing for the WEC?
Can you think? Let's see who can run out. All right, I'll go first. Cub Swanson. Still fighting.
Still fighting.
Yeah.
Dominic Cruz.
Dan.
From WEC.
Yeah.
Whew, that's a tough one. Wow. Yeah.
I thought you were gonna kill us
Dustin
after
Poirier?
all the footage. All right, go ahead. Oh, that's my turn. Who did I say? Cub Swanson, right? Who'd you say?
Dominic Cruz.
And Dustin Poirier. All right, Ricardo Lamas.
Eddie Wineland.
Is he retired?
No, didn't he just fight not too long ago?
All right,
He just got booked. Yeah, he actually just got booked too, I think. Boyo. Anthony Pettis?
Yeah. Jose Aldo.
Chad Mendes.
Are you playing the music on Dan, or are you telling us the first hour is almost up?
Both?
Well, Cerrone. We didn't say Cerrone.
Yeah, guys, but yeah.
There's not many of them left, huh?
No.
I remember we used
They
to
have
say
to be in
Pride
the
never
UFC?
die, and there's not too many Pride guys that are left.
They have to be in the UFC?
Well, I don't know. We're up against the clock. I just thought maybe we could rattle off another. How many? Who?
I was going to say Benson. Technically.
Oh, Benson, yeah.
Technically, you can get away with Gilbert Melendez.
Oh, yeah. If you want to play that game, then there's the Diaz brothers and Jake.
Yeah, I'm an asshole. I'll
Did
take
Jake
it back.
Shields do it? I can't remember, but yeah. Wow, those guys really, really did put out some
And Clay
talent.
Guida.
Why doesn't WEC get that Pride Never Die feel when they should? Slide away classes, maybe?
Maybe because
Some
their
killers
earlier
came out of the WEC.
Their earlier stuff wasn't broadcasted the way like pretty much all of Pride was.
Yeah. All right, folks. That's the end of the first hour. I want to thank Chelsea from the UFC for hooking up Joe Giannetti. I'm going to give a shout-out to myself for hooking up the Brittney Palmer interview. We still have 1 hour to go on the MMA Junkie Radio Show, so don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this message. And don't forget, in the second hour, we'll have Dillon Danis from Bellator. Here we go. It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. I just went to the front page of Junkie on Facebook. So it's facebook.com/official MMA Junkie. I scroll down to where we're at, and I just shared it. And I want to give thanks to those that do. A lot of you do it kind of on a daily basis, but hey, that's our way. That's our chance of maybe grabbing a fan from anybody that tunes into the video portion. So thank you to Randy. Let me see, Randy, DJ Techni, Kate Price, Community OZ Zimmer Live, and Marianne Lissica. Also, I got a message. It was really cool this morning, and it was from a listener of ours that kind of wanted to give us, I guess, feedback, but at the same time kind of took me down memory lane a little bit, because it turns out this gentleman used to corner Terry Martin.
Wow.
And his name is Dennis Hughes, so shout out to Dennis Hughes. He listens, and we were talking a little bit about wrestling and Habib and everything, but I don't know if I think I know I've told this story before. I just haven't told it in a while, but I'll tell you guys a funny story regarding Terry Martin. There was a night when Affliction had a show, and to sum it all up, the show happened. It was great. We all go back to the hotel, and I wind up drinking with Alexander Emelianenko, who is the younger brother of Fedor Emelianenko. It was a night of debauchery, man, between just getting kicked out of this room and that room, because California shuts down at midnight, or sorry, 2 a.m., and it's just hard to get your hands on alcohol. And if you do have it, you got to be in a private setting like your room or whatever. But we just kept bouncing and going to room and drinking in the lobby when we shouldn't have. Cops showed up. The funny part, though, is it's about 5 a.m. and Terry Martin, who had fought on the card, and I think he got knocked out by
Vitor, I think.
Was it Vitor? Yeah. You know, he was in good spirits for a guy who had just gotten knocked out. It just wasn't his night. You know, he was just walking through the lobby back to catch the shuttle so that they could take him back to John Wayne Airport. This was in Anaheim, California. John Wayne Airport is in Irvine/Santa Ana. Anyway, as he's walking out, I think we're starting to sober up a little, but we still have a buzz. And Alexander loves to imitate Muhammad Ali. And so we're just talking, and there's, I think there were some fans around or whatever, and so he's just talking about the jab and this and that. And he was antsy because he didn't get the fight. If you'll remember, he got pulled from the fight at the weigh-ins. He was supposed to fight Paul Buentello. So I think it was just his way of just like, you know, he didn't get the release of the fight. He was disappointed. He was probably miserable a little bit. He was trying to be festive with the fans that had shown him so much love, and so he just partied. You know, that was his release. So as we're winding down around 5 a.m. after everything I just told you, out comes Terry Martin, and he goes, hey, 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 you know, and he told him, he reminded him of Tyson. And if you look at Terry Martin, he is kind of Tyson-esque in a way, because Tyson was 5'10". I'd say Terry Martin was maybe 5'8". But they're both solid, so they didn't have the long, lanky build. They were more like the stocky build. And then Terry, I think, was wearing his hair similar to how you've seen Tyson in the past maybe wear his hair. I don't know, but he just told me, reminded him of him, and that he's seen him fight before and to continue doing his thing. But then he said, you know, I just think you should do this. And now he starts going into his little Muhammad Ali bounce. And Terry's wearing glasses. And Terry's being respectful. I think Terry had this look on his face like, you know, I really want to just catch my flight and get the fuck out of here. But you are the brother of one of the greatest ever, so sure, what you got to say? I think that's what he's thinking. And Alexander's bouncing. And he's saying you should throw your jab and follow it like this and do this. And Terry, the other fighter, is kind of playing with him, kind of like they square up. Okay, so what is it you want me to do? And he's showing him, like, you know, be in line with your straight, you know, all that stuff. Stuff that Terry probably already knows. But again, I think he's being polite, and maybe he's thinking maybe I can pick something up. Who knows? As he's doing that, Alexander, because he's buzzed, because he's bouncing, and because the other guy's not really playing, the other guy's just standing there, all of a sudden he just does it like a 1-2, boom, the 2 hits. And it's the sound you hear when you see a street fight where immediately afterwards you hear, ooh, at anyone, whether you're watching it on World Star or YouTube or live in person, there's always a fight, and at some point you do hear that sound, and everyone goes, ooh, because you know something landed. That's what happened. And he hit.
1 out of 10, what was it?
It wasn't a full punch, but it made a noise, and Alexander had been in
At
training.
least a 5?
So it was a fluid boom. Yeah, I'd say so. It was a 10 for just me showing you something. It was like, it looked like a dick move.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So, you know, there's no warm-up. I don't know how much he slept. He was already fucked up from the night before. And he's wearing glasses. So to hear the boom and the glass kind of fell down. And Terry, man, so composed, just kind of fixed his glass. And I remember I was kind of like a little school kid. I just went, oh, wow. If you look at me, if someone would come at me, I was like, oh, like that.
What did Alexander do?
That's the thing, dude. Alexander played it off because he hit him, and then he kind of went like, oh, my bad. Kind of like, he didn't say it, but he's kind of like, oh, my bad. And he still kind of wants to finish the lesson. Terry, to his credit, just fixes his glasses, stands there, really calm. And then me, after, ooh, I just went, oh, God, like, this could get ugly, or who knows what. And all I could barely say to Terry is, man, we're a little drunk, you know. And then Terry just nodded like, don't worry about it, or it's cool. So there's all this communication going on when there's really no communication.
You were Freddie Blassie that night. Like, you were kind of his handler.
I was his handler, man. I was his manager. And I just thought, oh, wow. Like, because, man, fighters have this reaction where it's a lot of it comes back. Even when I scare Dan Tom, when Dan Tom comes around the corner, you know, anybody else is just usually like, oh, they hold their heart like, ooh, you got me, you know. And Dan is like, it's close to like a retaliation, right? And it's been a few years since you've probably worked on some of these skills, right? But it's still something he'll probably never lose. Well, these guys have just went through a camp. Terry just fought. Alexander didn't. But still something like that either could have just, you know, raised it to a 10. So many things could have happened. 5 a.m., one guy's drunk. You know, I don't know. But luckily, it was all just it was squashed at that moment. They still, I think if I recall, you know, it was a handshake. I'm going my way, you're going your way, and no big deal, you know. But the Russian was like kind of like, not even my bad, just kind of like waved it like that. I shouldn't have done that, but just let me finish my lesson. And then the other guy just fixes his glasses, and it was a scary moment, man. The whole night was a trip,
like
and I just thought we avoided cops. We avoided this guy not throwing a kid off a 22 story. And spilling some drinks over some memorabilia that he has, and arm wrestling that got a little out of control.
Ding dong ditch.
Ding dong ditching, you know, all that shit. Like, literally, this was probably the capper where I was this close to just telling Alexander, all right then, like, that was a fun night, but we all got to catch flights or do whatever, and then this thing went down. I thought, oh, man. But anyway, hopefully Dennis is listening. He says he's listened and he's worked with Terry in the past. I thought he might get a kick out of that. Maybe Junkie Nation will as well. But that was the Affliction show back in 2007, 2008. That around that time is when they had that.
A lot of things came out of those shows. A lot of stories.
And you guys want to hear that card?
Yeah.
That card wasn't bad, man.
I
It was
remember
really
watching
good.
it.
You do or you don't?
I do.
Is that that's Jason High, Jay Huron.
Let me.
That's was it Babalu and
The first fight on the fight card was Mike Pyle versus J.J. Ambrose.
Okay.
Pyle just retired. He was a UFC veteran for many years. Also fought in the WEC. He also fought for Affliction. Vitor Belfort defeated Terry Martin. Antonio Rogerio Nogueira, Little Nog, who still fights, not frequently, but he still fights. He fought Edwin Duiz. Paul Buentello fought Gary Goodrich. He was supposed to fight Alexander Emelianenko. Alexander Emelianenko got pulled at the weigh-ins.
That's right.
So literally he didn't need to cut because he would usually make under 265 no problem. But he had gone through a whole training camp and he was there, and they actually pulled him because they had gotten his blood work back. The results of it. We'll just call it his medicals, but we all know they're talking about the blood work. And if you want to Google it and find out what it might be, I think it's always been alleged that it was Hep C. But no one would come on record and say it. And I think everyone just left it alone. And then Alex never fought in North America again anyway. But you'll see the allegations online if that's what people have said. But, this guy's managed to still fight everywhere else. And I got to imagine, it's not like North American, but other countries have to do some sort of testing. And maybe this is reversible. I had never heard that it is. Or maybe that's not what it was and it was something else. But for some reason or another, he never fought in North America. Mark Hominick versus Savant Young. Matt Lindland versus Fabio Nagao. Matt Lindland was a big name because he went through a couple cycles. He was early UFC days.
Mm-hmm.
He was the guy that Phil Baroni, they despised each other years ago. And then Lindland kind of had this falling out with the UFC, but then eventually made a comeback through Affliction. But he was always one of those guys, similar to Askren, where like, hey, he's pretty good, but he's just not in the UFC, even though he had fought in the UFC. But people would give him a lot of respect and love for his ranking.
I think Dave Terrell starched him, didn't he?
He reminded me of kind of like an earlier Fitch, He wrestled his way. Could have got a title shot at one point, and I think that's where a lot of the argument with him and the brass came into.
Butted heads with Dana.
Yeah.
All right, here's the other one: Hanato Sobral versus Mike Whitehead. See, a lot of the noobs that are listening, they'd be like, "Who the fuck's Hanato Sobral?"
Yeah.
More commonly known as Babalu. But Babalu put in some time in the sport as well. Mike Whitehead did some time at IFL. And all right, so then we get to Josh Barnett, the same Josh Barnett that was just pardoned by USADA, still fighting in the UFC. He fought Pedro Hizzo, who was Marco, who was his #1 student. And these guys were Valleys. Who was Vale Tudo was their style. They were a component of Luta Libre back in the day. And I don't know that team ever really grew out of these two and a few more. But it just never really got going. But Luta Libre had this big rivalry with Jiu-Jitsu, and I thought more could have come out of that, but it didn't. But eventually, Luta Libre is kind of what MMA is in a way, isn't it? Minus the headbutts, I suppose. But the more overall game, I think, of Luta Libre definitely outdistanced itself from those that just only came in with Jiu-Jitsu. If you got the sub, more power to you. But if you didn't, you were in for a world of hurt.
Yeah. Tank took out Duarte, right? When he fought in the UFC?
In Brazil.
Yeah, a lot of Luta Libre guys. I don't know the exact history, but a lot of it tied to catch wrestling. So that's why you'll see a lot of why is pro wrestling guys Luta Libre? I don't get that. How is pro wrestling and street fighting the same? Well, that's the connection there. And again, people hate to hear it, but pro wrestling has a connection to MMA. But yeah, Luta Libre is right in the middle of that.
Tadao, who would always rival, I think, Renzo Gracie.
Oh yeah, yeah.
These guys have bloody brawls and no time limits, headbutts.
Yeah.
To finish out the card, Andrei Arlovsky fought Ben Rothwell, and Fedor Emelianenko fought Tim Sylvia. And check out this payroll, by the way. Buentello took home 80 and 60. So he got 80,000 to show, 60,000. Wait. It says 80/60, so maybe they were unsure. But oh no, here it is. He got 80, 60 to show, 20 to win. Goodrich 25. Now Goodrich subbed in for Emelianenko. Little Nog got 50,000, no win bonus.
Oh wow.
Edwin DeWeese got 15,000. Oh, the swing bout was Ray Lizama versus Justin Levens. Google Justin Levens.
It was canceled.
This guy and his wife had a, how do you call it goes? Homicide, suicide, or murder, suicide?
Something like that, yeah.
There's a lot of legal stuff on this card that I'm electing not to say with these names that you're going over. By the way, it's an all-star list of that. By the way, just for what that's worth.
Scroll up. Who was the band? Was it Megadeth that played?
Megadeth. Yep.
Yeah.
Trivia.
We still have this poster.
Yeah.
It was a big card for Extreme Couture because a lot of guys were Extreme Couture there, not just the normal ones of Pyle and Huron. He also, that was the first time Vitor came into Extreme Couture. It was also the first time he was dropping a 185. So to see a legend that you just saw hulked up most of your life, and to see him in person for one thing, and then in person going through this transformation phase, was kind of a trip. And he was working with, of course, the late great Sean Tompkins.
Yeah. All right, I'll give you some more when we come back. You'll be very impressed with the fighter payroll. It was pretty amazing.
Oh, they went strong, right?
For back in the day. But again, that amazing payroll, you know, eventually you can't sustain it if the money's not also coming in. All right, it's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back.
Tell your boss to reschedule that meeting. Call your wife and tell her lunch is off. It's time for more MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes.
The SEC now has a 24/7 home on SiriusXM. Hear from hosts like Peter Burns, Chris Childers, and more on SiriusXM SEC Radio, channel 374, and the SiriusXM app. Play that up, Danny. I like that one.
Oh, these guys got busted.
This is Milli Vanilli, right?
You know trivia that involves our family and Milli Vanilli?
I know that I went to turn in my taxes one year. So let's call it oh wait, I went to State Farm, so this was early 90s. And Kiss FM would do this big deal. Hey, come and turn in your taxes. We got the Kiss FM RV. We'll be handing out swag. So me, of course, I always wait till the last day. I showed up and they were handing stuff out, and the guy goes, Milli Vanilli tickets. And I got 4 tickets. So I went with Woody, Milli Vanilli, at the Irvine Amphitheater, which is Irvine Meadows or whatever, Verizon at the end. And then about a month later, I think that's when they go, they're lip syncing. And I was like, oh God. And I went to the whole time I had gone and said, hey, that's pretty good, you know? So, but anyway, I don't know.
No, it's not that.
That's not it.
So when our dad got in that accident and he was at Cedars-Sinai, me and Gabe were downstairs and we were trying to get up. No, Hanavar. We were trying to get up in the elevator and they had closed everything off. One of the Milli Vanilli guys tried to commit suicide. He was staying at Cedars-Sinai as well.
Really?
I think he tried to jump off the roof or something.
Damn.
And but he ended up killing himself like not that long after that.
Jumping off the roof works, let me tell you. Goes and I had a little business, and it was in downtown Santa Ana.
Oh.
Goes was tending to the business, and I go, I got to make a phone call. This was before cell phones. So I had to walk to the library that was near the courthouse, and I had a dime with me, because that's what it costs, or a quarter, I don't know. And I went to call. So downtown Santa Ana has a courthouse, a jail, a library, just a lot of federal buildings or whatever, government buildings. So I remember I was outside of the library, and I'm making a call, and all of a sudden I hear, boom! Not an explosion boom, but just a boom, you know? Excuse me. The cookie was good. Thanks, Pam, again, for the cookies. So I just remember going like, whoa. I think I was in the middle of the call. I think it was my mom, and I just go, whoa, I just heard a big loud boom, you know? But I knew it wasn't a gunshot, and I couldn't imagine what it fucking could be, you know? So I go back to Goes, say whatever I needed to say, and parted ways. And because I don't think I went up to it. Remember, my memory's terrible. And then Goes told me later on, or maybe you found out like I did in the paper the next day, what happened was there was a dude there that was getting sentenced. And I don't remember what the case was. I don't know if he murdered someone or fondled a kid or who knows what the fuck. But he was going,
It was
right?
gang-related.
Gang-related? He was going to be gone. He could tell he was going to be gone for a while. But somehow they go, we need a recess or a break. And I guess the guy went out. You know how sometimes you'll see them consult their attorneys or in the back or whatever? And what he did was he was on the 8th floor. He just ran out and launched himself. And that boom was him killing himself. And it happened probably, Dan Tom, the distance of probably here to that exit sign. Except there was like a building in the way.
Oh,
a few things. So it'd be like us going like, hey, let's see what's outside the Delano if you were really curious about a noise. But then you go, well, it's just a noise, you know, no big deal. So it's not like I had a direct sight line to it, but it was that close. That's why I heard the loud boom. But some guy was like, I don't want to face the music. I'm just gonna take my life. And so somehow I guess maybe he went out to get a smoke or fresh air or whatever. But there was a balcony, and from there he just launched himself, and that was it.
Mean Streets of Santa Ana.
We always talk about the mean streets of Santa Ana, but it was close. And for whatever reason, if we just would have been chatting, we may have been able to witness that live because we really weren't far from it. But terrible, terrible, terrible thing that happened.
You know that business that we haven't named?
That's rough.
I've never told. I've maybe told a few people what it is, but I don't wanna. Because remember that guy that tried to write a book one time on our story. This is like 3 or 4 years ago. And I always thought, why tell them everything? Like, why not save like a couple nuggets here and there that would just shock people? I know you got one. And that one, like little things like, there's certain stories that I purposely haven't told just because I would want somebody, if we ever did that, to just flip through and just go, what?
Man,
like we share a lot of things, but we don't share everything.
I know. I have some that I don't know if Mom would ever talk to me again. Yeah, there's some really, really bad ones.
Yeah, I think at this point she'd get over it.
Maybe.
She has more of a sense of humor.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, yeah. You know, there's some pretty serious ones out there that I look back and maybe I could have been behind bars, but it didn't work out that way. I'm still here bugging you guys. I know me and the junkies were butting heads on Facebook again.
Today?
Yeah.
Last night, today, it all had to do with Chandler. That story went up. I could beat Habib 10 times out of 10. And remember I told you I'm a contrarian. If you say, if Dan Tom says, I think Habib smokes Chandler, the first thing I'm going to go is say, really? Well, Chandler's got wrestling, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But if he leaves and then you go, Chandler can beat up Habib, then as a contrarian, I get it from Dad because he's like that. I probably go like, really? A guy that's 26-0? So it's just a matter of where you catch me.
Yeah.
So because I know this, all I ask, so you don't fuck with me and allow me to go around strangling people, because that's what I'll do, or shoot them or stab them, is just have a little bit of reason and just meet me halfway, or 80-20, you know? Someone says, I think it was John Hooper Hayes. Is that his name?
No, wasn't it Gus that started that? Yeah, John Wilkes Booth.
Yeah, that's John Hooper Hayes or whatever.
Reyes or something.
Yeah, well, him or Gus. There's two Gusses. But somebody said, no, I think it was that damn John McDonald. I think it was him.
I thought
said
Gus was the
Habib
first
wins 10 times out of 10, and none of them are even close. Now, MMA and pro wrestling is all about that kind of talk and swagger. I get that. So when Chandler said it, even though I disagree, Chandler could beat Habib, but of course if he beats him, I'm not expecting him to win the next 9 either. And neither's Chandler, for crying out loud, you know what I mean? But whatever. But when he said it, it kind of goes in this ear, out the other, and I just dissect it as, okay, he's promoting. Maybe he'll go to the UFC, maybe he won't. It'd be a great fight. There's some skills there, you know. I had Quinta, what did he do? Whatever. And then I just move on to the next thing. But when we all know we're bullshitting, and we all know we're a little over the top, and we all know there's a pro wrestling component to MMA, you can't bring that to an MMA Junkie Nation party. Otherwise, you're going to get checked, or someone's going to fire right back at you, or even worse, just waste your time. And he said, I think it was John, that took it to the level of, not only does Habib win 10 out of 10 times, none of them are even close.
Yeah,
Habib could win 10 out of 10. You never know. He's never lost. How can we argue with that? But come on, none of them are going to be close? Not one time? Well, Chandler's going to come close to Habib?
I think the argument...
I don't know about all that. I mean, I consider coming close is Michael Johnson got smoked, right? If I just go sum up the word, what's the word to sum up what happened between Johnson and Habib? And if you were to say smoked, I'd go, yeah, you're right. Walloped? Yep, you're right. Thumped? Yep, you're right. Because that is what happened. Even Michael Johnson said, man, you know, I got smoked. And Iaquinta said the same thing. But Johnson did rock him.
Yep.
Once he rocked him, it wasn't, you got rid of anyone, you got rid of 10 out of 10 and none of them are close. Because if you're wobbling another guy, that means you're close to maybe putting him out. You know what I mean? You can't say that. Mm-hmm. You know, you just can't. You know, Iaquinta wasn't able to get that moment on him. I think he threw one punch later on in the fight that we all thought maybe something, but it wasn't. He just didn't have enough left. But the minute he stifled some takedowns and got up, that's when the fight, again, just wasn't under the definition of not even close.
Well,
and I think that's what we were butting heads over the most.
Why'd they come at you for that, though?
Because I look like a Chandler cheerleader because he was my landlord. He's been a good friend. He's co-hosted. He's been in studio. And it's fun. I mean, if you think about it, you always want to, you know, we like to jab Jason Lackey for the scrap pack and shit like that. It's fun for people to do that, and I get that. I like to play ball. But at some point, like your over the top stuff it's not gonna work because I get it. You know what I mean? So all I'm gonna do is, like I told Aaron Fisher. Aaron Fisher says, "Oh no, that's the big boy pond. He doesn't belong." So I asked him, "Well, gee, could he win King of the Cage? Like, is he good enough for that?" You know, and then it becomes like I just wasted his time with that. And he wasted my time. You know,
how
what
could
I mean?
you say it doesn't belong when he beat out Eddie Alvarez, who
He
came
said it
into
was-
the big boy pond and won the belt?
He said it was 6 years ago, and that they went 1-1, and that Will Brooks also beat him, and Will Brooks didn't have a good run in the UFC. You see what I'm saying? That's why I said, I go, okay, well, I can play this too. Michael Johnson hasn't had a good run lately, but guess who's the only guy to ever give Tony Ferguson a loss?
Yeah.
Joanna Jędrzejczyk smoked all 15ers out there, but guess who's her little kryptonite? Rose. You pointed out the other day, Matt Hughes, he had an amazing record. I think it was 44-4 at one point before the tail end of the career. But guess who gave him 2 of those? The same fucking guy, Dennis Hallman, who didn't really have the best. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's just does he have skills to fight off Khabib? Yeah, he's got some wrestling. There's some takedown defense. There's some quickness in his feet. There's some power in his hands. Does he mean he'll win 10 out of 10? No, I don't think either guy would win at 10 out of 10. And frankly, honestly, as big of a Chandler cheerleader as I am, if you put my life on it, I'd have to say I'd probably side with the guy that's 26-0 to maybe get closer to the 10 out of 10 versus the, so the 8-2, the 7-3, the 6-4, whatever. But so I feel like I keep it real there. If you pin me down, I'm not gonna just lie to you there either as well. You know what I mean? But I will say that when they fight, if they fight, I think it'd be a good fight, and I think Chandler would definitely compete. That's a great.
You gotta
move.
look at all the pieces of the puzzle though. Like he's probably saying it to get his name out there because of the negotiations that are going on. Like you can't really. I mean, what is he gonna say? Put your name out there. It gets people talking, right? We're doing it.
And they kind of get that. It's not like they're a batch of dummies, but sometimes I feel like they don't always get it, or some of them miss a few of those that go over the head, type of thing, where others are just sitting back going, yeah, I get it. I get it. Like Sam Perez, Sam Aljam, he looks at that and goes, I get it. I fucking get it. I've been around,
Well, but he's been around those things.
There's some of the young guys that are junkies, hardcores, and they're like, oh, fuck, he's got fucking nerve, and why is he saying this? And bitch, step up if you're going to do that. I'm like, oh, my God, like, whatever.
Well, the three of us have been around situations where fighters have just flat out said things like that. Like, well, I just said that because I knew my agent would have more leverage to negotiate this or do that. Like, I don't know, just put yourself in their shoes. You're just going to say some crazy shit every once in a while.
I agree. I want to do the daily debate, and we'll do it in just a sec. But let me finish this out, because I know we have the time. Let me tell you these salaries right quick, and then we'll do the daily debate.
On Affliction?
Yeah.
All right.
Belfort got 140. He got 70 and 70. Terry Martin got 30. Mike Powell got 20, 15 and 15. Oh, no. 15 to show, 15 to win. J.J. Ambrose got 5. Babalu got 90, 60 to show, 30 to win. Mike Whitehead, 50. Matt Lindland, 300,000, dude. He got 225,000 to show, 75,000 as a win bonus. Over Fabio Nagal, 20,000. Mark Hominick, 10 and 10. He just got the 5 and 5. Savant Young got 7. Barnett, 300,000, no win bonus over Pedro Rizzo. Andre Arlovsky, 750,000, dude. He got 500,000 to show, 250,000 for the win over Ben Rothwell. Ben Rothwell got 250 just to show. Tim Selvage got 800,000 just to show, and he fought for what, about a minute?
That's right.
Fight?
Yeah.
36 seconds.
That's it.
36 seconds. Fedor Emelianenko got 300,000, no win bonus, but the rumor was that he had got a $1 million check, or I don't know if it was in the form of tied to the.
Break in a minute.
Tied to the what you call it? The freaking out here. What's it called? The pay-per-views. There you go. Daily debate. Here you go. We got to do a quick one, guys. Today. What did you think of the Ultimate Fighter 27 season debut last night? Thumbs up. Thumbs down. Didn't watch.
Thumbs up, but it didn't look that much different than any other season. There's, they bring in the undefeated angle. The two coaches are two people that you wouldn't expect are going to fight, but it's for a super fight. That, I guess, was a little different, but other than that, it had that same feel as any other season. But this seemed more like a little bit of a chilled group. Even the coaches were a little chilled. So thumbs up because I'm a hardcore and I got to watch it for this show. But they're in check. We'll put it that way.
I shamefully have to say I didn't watch, but I didn't watch perhaps maybe why other people didn't watch. This was dropped and debuted right in the middle of yet another back-to-back UFC schedule. So the saturation argument kind of rears its ugly head again. I was kind of busy getting ready for Atlantic City this weekend and didn't have time. This kind of snuck up on me, to be honest.
I'm going to politely disagree with you and you. Oh boy. I thought of something. They actually promoted Atlantic City throughout the show, so I thought, well, that's pretty good, because now we're at Wednesday and we're reminded of Lee versus Barbosa and Swanson versus Edgar. And then I thought, wow, why couldn't they have done it 1 week before? That way they could have promoted Gaethje versus Poirier. And then the other point you made was you said it was a chilled group, and so far it is, but the upcoming episodes look like there's going to be some drama, and that's what kind of drew me in, so I give it a thumbs up. All right, that's the Daily Debate for today, brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio crew. And by the way, those that didn't watch was actually the large percentage, 60%. Thumbs up, 35%. Thumbs down, 5%. So there wasn't too much hate going on. Thank you to the 654 of you that voted. We're going to take a quick break. It's MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back.
They taught Andy Griffith how to whistle. Here are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Start your day with SiriusXM. Enable the SiriusXM skill on your Amazon device and then tell Alexa to set an alarm for your favorite channel. You'll wake up to the sounds of SiriusXM. With SiriusXM and Alexa, you can get the latest sports news each morning without picking up your phone or turning on the TV.
Yeah.
You got that record?
3 and 15.
Yeah, it was time for the manager to go. If you're a
Good
Cincinnati
God.
Reds fan, your manager's gone. All right, Bellator 198 is coming around the corner. It's on April 28th. It takes place in the Allstate Arena in Rosemont, Illinois. This is part 3 of the Bellator Heavyweight Grand Prix. At the end, we will have a new Bellator Heavyweight Champion. So the headliners for this bout is Fedor Emelianenko versus Frank Mir. Now, also on this fight card, oh, by the way, the Fights will be coming to you on the Paramount channel at 9 p.m. Eastern Start Time for the main card. You can watch the prelims on MMA Junkie at 7 p.m. Eastern Start Time. Now, starting off this card will be the debut of decorated grappler Dillon Danis as he takes on Kyle Walker. Dillon now joins us on MMA Junkie Radio. What's up, Dillon? How you doing?
How you doing, brother? Good to be on the show.
Yeah, thanks for joining us here on MMA Junkie Radio. You are going to be, no disrespect to you. Obviously, Fedor and Frank Mir is what we're all tuning in for, but I think there's been such a build-up through your decorated grappling career that a lot of people are actually tuning in to your fight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where you're coming at me with those facts, but I think everybody's tuning in to watch me.
Good one. No, listen, I'm giving you props. You're probably the second guy that everyone's tuning into, aside from Fedor Emelianenko and Frank Mir. And again, I think a lot of it just comes from you had a great grappling career, and of course, we know you roll with some very popular fighters that fight in the UFC. But tell me about this debut that's been mounting up. How long has it been? How long has it been since you started to focus just on MMA and less on grappling?
Probably I would say since ADCC, so I would say 3-4 months I just focused on MMA. But I've always been aware of MMA, and I've always been aware of fighting. So even when I was training as a kid, I always thought, there was altercation going to happen in the street, and am I going to be ready for it? So my jiu-jitsu was always catered towards a fight, and I always had that in the back of my mind. We would train sport but think street. So I feel like I've been ready for this since I've been 15 years old.
Is it one of those? Are you one of the guys that's able to pull away completely from grappling and just focus on MMA, or are you able to do both?
We'll see. I mean, I do love, grappling jiu-jitsu is my passion. It's something that I've been doing my whole life, so it is kind of hard not to be able to train in the gi every day and do those kind of things. But I'm still doing jiu-jitsu. Now it's just on a different platform and a different, kind of version of it. But it's still jiu-jitsu, so I'm still doing what I love at the end of the day.
Where have you been training the last few months, Dillon? How many gyms have you been able to call home?
Yeah, so I was 4 or 5 weeks in Ireland training fully there at SBG, and then I've been training here in New York too. In New York, it's kind of hard to find there's no really home gym. You just kind of have to go everywhere. Go different places for everything. So I'll do jiu-jitsu at my jiu-jitsu gym, Unity, and I'll go do boxing at a boxing gym. So it's a little bit more complicated. It's a lot easier to be able to train in Ireland where you have everything under one roof and you have a coach there all the time. So, I've been training in Ireland and then in New York.
And who will be cornering you at your fight on April 28th at Bellator 198?
So it would be John Kavanaugh, it would be Murillo Santana, and one of my childhood kind of training partners, John Helwig, who's I think 5-1. He's fought, and he's a coach now in Jersey.
Yeah, I remember Helwig. Helwig's one of those. Do you remember when Mike Constantino was on our show?
He's one of the smartest dudes.
And he goes, "This guy's an encyclopedia. Ask him every question." Yeah, John Helwig. All right, good to hear that name.
Yeah.
Dillon Danis, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He will be fighting Kyle Walker at Bellator 198 on April 28th. You can catch the fight on the Paramount Network, 9 p.m. Eastern Start Time. This is his highly anticipated debut. All right, goes. What do you have for Dillon Danis?
Dillon, so back in the day when we used to hear some of the wrestlers or the strikers and they were picking up jiu-jitsu, at first they would say, well, I'm trying to learn enough to kind of stay out of trouble, but then little by little they started to fall in love with it. The reverse for you with striking, is that something that you're just kind of doing because you have to do to be good in the sport, or have you kind of fallen in love with that as well, like the same way you fell in love with jiu-jitsu?
The way I see people saying that, like wrestlers or what you were saying back in the day, because I feel like they were getting into the sport just to make money. They weren't getting into the sport to be the best. And at the end of the day, I'm getting into this to be the world champion. So I go into striking thinking, okay, am I going to be able to strike with the best in the world? And that's what you have to think. So I am working on my striking like I am a world champion. And I think if you're going with that mindset thinking, okay, I'm just going to do enough not to get hit or something like that, I think you're going in with the wrong mindset. So I go into every striking class thinking I'm going to be the world champion one day, so I need to be able to strike with the best, and you got to be able to do it all.
You already have an established name. Was it difficult to find you an opponent?
Yeah, I mean, everybody talks a big game like they want it until they get it. So, all the social media stuff is always it's always just talking. You see it all the time. People are saying this, that, but then when it comes down to it, no one's there. So, I mean, everything will be seen. All these guys are calling me out. They all will get it. So it doesn't really matter in MMA. I'm just starting out. I'm 24 years old, and I have a long time in the sport. And, so I'll get every single one of them.
The fight analyst Dan Tom is with us here as well. Dan, what do you have for Dillon Danis?
Hey, Dillon. A lot of my favorite jiu-jitsu figures speak a lot about, the fighting spirit of it and kind of have that when they talk about it. And when I hear you talk about your grappling background and in regards to now getting into MMA, I notice you talk about that, how fighting and adversity is something that is not foreign to you. Can you speak a little more on that? Was it your experiences kind of growing up, or was it a particular experience that maybe pushed you toward martial arts that introduced you to fighting?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, obstacles and adversity comes hand in hand with martial arts. To be able to stay in martial arts for years, you need to be able to overcome adversity. You need to overcome obstacles. Like for my first 2 years when I started, I wasn't the most athletic. I wasn't the most I wasn't the most talented. I didn't just come to the gym and I was tapping everybody. It took me a little bit where it was rough for me a couple of times. Like, I was getting tapped by grown men and I was just a kid and it was frustrating. So, there was a lot of days I would go home and cry, or, a lot of days I would go home and think like, can I do this? And, you had to face your adversity. You had to face your obstacles, and I stuck with it. And now it's been 10 years that I've been training. So, martial arts and adversity go hand in hand, I think. And all those moments and all those times that I had to deal with all that growing up, I feel like goes into this fight. So everything builds up into this one moment where, I feel like I'm coming in bulletproof because I've dealt with every single kind of adversity or obstacle that one could deal with. So, yeah, I believe what you said is correct. There's a certain fighting spirit to martial arts, and, any martial artist that's been doing it for a long time, they hats off to them because it's not an easy game.
And staying on the topic of growth and overcoming adversities, obviously, people know your affiliation and your past with Marcelo Garcia, and maybe not so much getting into that, but maybe talking more about the positives. Having a coach and mentor is really important, and you surround yourself with some really talented people. John Kavanagh is the one I wanted to ask you about, and tell me, in that sense of, working with, being so used to one coach or one mentor, however you want to put it, and then going with another great mind to kind of get that knowledge. What was that transition and experience like?
I would say that the transition is easy because once you're around someone that has the same kind of mindset and the same kind of goals as you, it's very easy to click with them. I feel like that's why I get along with a lot of people that have the same mindset with me. So going to John Kavanagh was easy because he has the same kind of goals, he has the same kind of vision, and he's turned on all the time like I am. Like, he's always switched on. I said turned on, that sounds so weird. But switched on. So, like, he's always switched on with everything, Even when we're in the house and we're watching fighting, we're working on moves and something like that. So that's what I mean by that. There's a certain kind of mindset to be the best. You have to always be thinking about it. You always have to be aware of everything. So, like, even if you're in the house and I'm like, hey, did you see that position today? And then he'd be like, yeah, look, and then both work on it right there. So that's why it's easy for me, because when you're around like-minded people, it's very easy to be it's very easy to click, I would say. So, yeah, I like John Kavanagh a lot, and he's always been there for me and helped me since I met him, and he has a very similar mindset. We're always switched on with martial arts, and, yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Dillon Danis, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He will be debuting in mixed martial arts at Bellator 198 on the Fedor versus Frank Mir card. Paramount Network has got you hooked up, 9 p.m. Eastern start time. You also get to see a co-main event featuring Emmanuel Sanchez and Sam Sicilia. And how about the theme, man? A lot of decorated grapplers here that have been doing well for themselves. Rafael Lovato Jr., will be fighting John Salter. Neiman Gracie versus Javier Torres. And Dillon Danis, our guest here, he'll be fighting Kyle Walker. Dillon, one last thing here. Obviously, when we prepare for the interviews, we Google names just to make sure we're on top of everything that goes out there. Just wanted to give you a chance to clear up anything from a few weeks ago in New York. Has any of that affected your preparations for the fight, or even going forward from the incident there in Brooklyn?
Yeah, so it's ongoing investigation, so I'm not set to speak on that topic. And no, nothing affected my preparation. Everything is going perfect, and yeah, everything's going on. Everything's going perfect for me.
All right, my man. Thanks for the time. We really appreciate it. Good luck on April 28th. We'll be tuning in when you and Kyle Walker mix it up there at Bellator 198. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you. All right. Thank you to CJ, Dan, and Danny, and the whole team over there. Ryan, Bellator, hooking up that interview. Bellator 198. This is now we're going to have a little bit more of just of an answer of this quarterfinal matchup because the winner of Mir and Fedor fights Chael. So one semifinal will be set, and then we're left with King Mo versus Bader, and the winner will be fighting Matt Mitrione. So remember, at the end of the year, they will crown a new heavyweight champion over at Bellator. I saw some of the preview stuff that they've been doing, Bellator, on social media, and it's really, really solid. I still can't believe how old school Fedor is, taking a train 12 hours just to get and set up his training camp. And Frank really does look like to be in really good shape for this fight, so good on him for that. All right, folks, we are getting ready to wrap up here, but I did want to finish with this, unless you guys have something, because I have something.
Go ahead.
Dan?
No, yeah, good.
Right. Leandro Santos had done an interview, and he was frustrated as to why it wasn't an interview with us. I found it on Bloody Elbow. He was unhappy with getting booked versus James Krause, and I'm not sure if that's done or not. I heard that it was offered, wasn't accepted, but that it might be offered, and he's criticizing him, saying he's not even in the top 15. And I went back and I go, I know that name for a reason. He has a really good record in the UFC. Good overall record, good record in the UFC, and he's got that really, really high, that quality win versus Kevin Lee. But I haven't seen him much lately when I do the rankings because he just doesn't fight often. So I just wanted to say, man, Leandro, when you do interviews, I mean, there's a reason for all this. You know what I mean? Like, your record is solid, 5-0-1 in the UFC. With a win over Adriano Martins and Kevin Lee, solid. We all tip our hat. Even Tony Martin, that's not an easy out. But in 2013, he fought once. In 2014, he fought twice, and one was a draw. In 2015, he fought twice. Once in 16, no times in 2017, and we're 1/3 of the way in 2018, and we're just barely talking about a fight booking. So this doesn't just go to him, but it goes to all the other fighters out there, man. You got to be real selective with your fight bookings. Sometimes you're in a position where you have leverage, and other times you don't. But that's what's going to get you there. And beating top 10, top 5, top 10, top 15, top 20, whatever it is, that's what I've noticed is going to make your mark in the sport, man. When you attach yourself to wins over people like that, that's what matters. And when you don't do it, then you're just going to get forgotten about, man, in the sport.
Well, they're trying to push Brazilians. And if you look at everywhere he's fought, he's only fought in the States one time. And the last one was in Manchester. Like, that type of stuff is going to happen. If you keep getting put on those international cards, it's going to be harder and harder for you to get pushed.
And I had heard that there might be some injuries or who knows what, but this whole thing about turning things down when you're 38, how many fights does he have left?
Hey, you make that sound like it's old.
Well, it's old
like
for a lightweight, for UFC especially.
Yeah.
It's not old for heavyweight, but it's old for a lightweight. It's old for a UFC lightweight. But it's really old for a lightweight that's out there complaining. Fight James Krause. James Krause got disrespected 2 times like in 24 hours. Did you watch Tough Talk?
I didn't watch Tough Talk. I watched the first half of it.
Karen Bryant was asking.
He's like living in the tough gym now.
Yeah, Karen Bryant was saying something about what was it like? Were you starstruck when you saw DC and Kane on one side, and then Stipe, Chris Camozzi, and James Krause on the other side? And then I think DC was off camera giggling. Michael Bisping pointed out, "What you giggling at? What you giggling at?" And then somehow they were just coming out saying, "Well, I don't know if he really breath's taken away when you see James Krause." Like, you know what I mean?
Damn.
And there's some truth to that. Obviously, they're the ones world champions, icons, and Krause and Camozzi. They're the guys that have done this for a long time. You got to respect that hustle. But I don't know if he deserved to get clowned like that. And then I saw this, and I go, shit. I got to stick up for him. The James Krause. We'll be back tomorrow with another edition of MMA Junkie Radio. Gilbert Melendez will be on the show. Still working on a couple other names. I don't want to jinx it for now. The rest of you go out there and be a champion, huh?